Hey guys, if you can think about how you found this podcast, maybe it's on Instagram or TikTok, maybe someone shared it with you. I don't run ads for the show or have sponsorships, so the only way this grows is through word of mouth. If this was valuable for you in any way, my only ask is if you could share this with someone who you think would help their investing journey or business. Thanks a lot, and let's get to the episode. So welcome back to SDR the Best. I'm your host, Michael Chang. It's my pleasure to welcome Assaf Karman to the show. Assaf, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Michael. It's a pleasure to be here.
I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule. Before we start, we always like to ask a question. What was a memorable short-term rental experience you've had as a short-term rental host?
So one time I had a relatively long stay. It was like 3 weeks. This lady from Japan came with her daughter to do summer camp, which happened to be at the same school that my daughter went. So I was messaging her on the platform when she stayed. I realized what she was doing, and I just didn't know that it was the same school. And then the first day when I came to drop off my daughter, I see the lady and I recognize her from the picture. And we start talking, and the girls became friends over the 3 weeks. And then the next year when we went to Tokyo, we hung out with them. And it was really great. It was just like, two families connecting over this shared experience, and the girls were friends, and it was just beautiful.
That's great. Home sharing was originally was like building the connections that you otherwise wouldn't have. So it's a fantastic.
Oh, it was a separate apartment, and I just recognized her from the communication.
Gotcha. Yeah, I just meant more like the whole Airbnb concept of just like being able to meeting different people from all over the world. So that's a great way to connect with people again that you otherwise may not have had a chance to get in contact with. So why don't I give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to the audience?
Thanks for having me again. My name is Assaf Karman. I'm CEO and co-founder of Turno. You might recognize us as Turno B&B. We renamed the company last year. And what Turno does is create a platform where hosts can find and manage cleaners. So you can go on our platform, you can find cleaners. You can also bring your existing team and manage them on our platform. By manage, automate your scheduling, checklist, inventory, payments. And I'd like to say reduce kind of 90% of your operational effort so that you really have to only step in when there's an exception.
Got it. We were talking before the show about management by exception. It's a really cool concept that we'll talk more about. But I'm curious, how did you get started before building Turno? How did you get started in the short-term rental space?
I was hosting and found it really difficult to manage, especially the cleaning side of the business. The constant communication and the photos and the payments and things just consumed so much of my time. I got into it with kind of the vision of having a passive income stream where, I just add properties and just get rich with more properties and don't have to spend a lot of time doing it. But it turned out that I was doing a lot of what I like to call kind of low quality or low skill work, right? I got into this as a real estate investor and found myself doing a lot of administrative tasks that were not the reason why I got into this. And I have a background in software development, worked in a lot of software companies. I also previously had worked on a marketplace concept and just had this aha moment that this is a really great application for a marketplace concept. Just let people find talent that knows what they're doing, give them a platform that automates. Not everything can be automated, but what can be automated is automated, and let them manage by exception. So create a script, create a blueprint for your operations, let it run. And if there's an exception, and sometimes there are, then you step in. But otherwise, just apply your time to the things that matter to you, whether it is quality time with your family, whether it is focusing on your day job or acquiring more properties or investing in other areas.
I like to say that Peter Thiel had an interesting kind of comment about building businesses. There's different ways of building businesses, but one of them is how do you take a really complex situation and simplify it? I think that's a lot of Airbnb. Running Airbnb is 1,000 different steps. And how do you actually condense that into a manageable size that you can manage and automate? And the more you can do that, you can actually really build the business. And all the different software platform solutions out there like Turno, they do a really good job of that. I'm kind of curious, before you launched the business, how many short-term rentals did you have?
Three.
Okay. And then what was the turning point for you? Or was it always, did you always want to build a software business too? What was the pivot point for you to like, oh, you know what? This doesn't make sense to add a fourth one, but let me actually develop a solution so that I can not deal with all the rote administrative tasks that you just mentioned that as you were managing your 3 Airbnbs.
So I was working on a different software business, but hasn't been paying the bills yet. And in the meantime, I was doing this, and then I was like, hey, wait a minute. I can combine these two things together. And I just really saw the need to do it. I was really struggling. I'm just, full disclosure, a disorganized person. It's difficult for me to keep tabs on things. If there's two balls in the air, I drop them both. So being a disorganized person, I needed a solution that would make it work for me. And it turns out I'm not the only person who can benefit from it.
Got it. And then I guess what drove you to cleaning? There's obviously property management systems, cleaning, communication, payments. There's a whole gamut of no constellation of different solutions. Like what made you try to get on the cleaning side?
When you are running 1, 2, 3, that's the only problem you really have. Everything else is trivial. That's the biggest problem. So I just focused on the one thing that was most painful for me, which was managing the cleaners and finding the cleaners and paying the cleaners and dealing with sometimes like false reviews, people who would be like, oh, this was dirty, I don't want to pay. And I don't have any proof. So I was like, okay, I'm going to make sure I'm going to have proof every time, using our app to capture videos, capture photos, and have the tags that I can always prove that this was the state of the property when someone checked. So really, it was the biggest problem. And I think it remains the biggest problem, at least on the smaller end of the scale. If you have, I'd say, under 20 properties.
Is that the solution that, as you built Turno, is that where you're focused on? Is just if you're a host with fewer than 20 properties, that's where you want to, where your platform is best utilized?
And that was the focus. And as people started with Turno, they've grown their portfolios to 500, 600 properties. And we're really good at handling any number of properties up to that.
Okay. How many properties is on Turno? I'm curious, like we're talking about metrics, like how many properties are on Turno? How many cleaners are on Turno? How big is the company?
Yeah, so it's around 50,000. I need to double the last count is, and similar number of cleaners. So it's truly a global platform with properties all over the world. We have multiple languages that are supported. Now we're trying to get better traction in Europe. So we've added Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, German. It's a similar problem all over the world where you have a guest leaving and a guest coming, and in between someone needs to clean, and it needs to be perfect. Otherwise, there are bad reviews. And there's also like an element of cash flow here, because if you don't have confidence in your system, you're not going to have back-to-back bookings, right? So that means you're leaving a day on the table. That's money, right? If you have a well-oiled machine and you can handle those sins, that's money.
Yeah, absolutely. We have 31 of them that we want to manage ourselves. And our cleaners, everything gets turned that day. We don't allow, because you're right, you can't get last minute bookings. If you have a 1-day lag between your bookings, you're giving up, and you have 7 turns a month. Like that's, I don't know, 20% of your, 23% of your inventory that's perishable too. It's literally money out. You might as well light your money on fire, because if you have 20% of your days that you can't book, or 20% of your days you can't book, you're going to have a really tough time in this business.
You'd be surprised, but there's a lot of people who do that. We're just like, this is too stressful. I can't turn it in a day.
That's crazy. That's great. That's great to have a solution. And that's great to have a solution. We were users of Turnover BNB, the previous name of the company. When we first started, it was a great way for us to find cleaners and be able to scale, because we were in we're in different locations. So it was a lot easier than to find our own cleaners and have a marketplace. But maybe talk to us a little bit about so someone gets an Airbnb in a new market and they use Turn. What's the best way for them to find a cleaner? Find someone that they really can trust. Like, how do they go on the platform to find someone that's going to actually turn that same day and do a good job?
So you go to turno.com. It's very easy to find our search button. Do a search for cleaner in your area. We recommend taking 2 cleaners, always having 2 people that work on your property. I would try and give them each a little bit of access and training. You're always going to have the one that's favorite, or maybe the one that's a little cheaper, but it's just so good to have that other person that is trained and available, because people are people, right? Some days their cars are going to break, their kid is going to be sick, and mistakes happen. So it's really great to have that backup or split. So it's very easy for you to do that on Turno. You do a search, you select the people you want to work with, you integrate your Airbnb account. So now we have an official partnership with Airbnb. We're an official software partner. So you can connect your Airbnb account with one click. We'll pull all your property information. Whenever someone books your place, your cleaners will automatically be notified when they have to go there. You can create a custom checklist to tell them exactly what to do. You can require photo documentation for specific steps. You can ask them to track inventory so that, for example, toilet paper runs out, shampoo runs out, paper towels run out, laundry pods run out, that you get a notification that you need to replenish. And this is what I call management by exception, right? Whenever a guest checks in, check out, cleaner arrives, they do what they need to do, they follow the checklist. If there's nothing that's out of the ordinary, you don't have to do a single thing. We even pay them automatically when they complete the project. But if there's things to replenish, or they report a problem that someone left something, or there's a damage, or any other issue, then you have to step in. But otherwise, you can go about your day, grow your business, spend time with your family, read a book, whatever.
Those are the days. What about if you're on multiple platforms? We're on Airbnb, but we're also on Booking.com, Vrbo, Expedia, Google Travels. What if people are on different platforms? Multiple
Yes,
platforms.
you can pull all your reservations. So we can connect with Airbnb, but we also connect with every other platform. We also connect with 90% of the property management software systems out there. I'm talking Hospitable, Guesty, Hostfully, all these guys. So we connect with them. So you can bring your bookings automatically from anywhere, not just Airbnb.
I use Hostaway, and I did see the term B&B integration, so that's good to have that. And
Yeah.
we do things a little differently. We actually give our cleaners the Hostaway app, and they have their own account, and they can see the calendar. But I think what's really nice about Turno is like you guys solved a payment problem. That's a really big issue, actually, or that was a big issue for us too. Was how do you pay everyone on time, and you have to make sure that the cleaning was done right, and the number you can get like a big invoice at the end of the month, but someone has to go through it and check everything. So one nice part is the payment side of your platform is people can get paid automatically. And actually from the cleaners, I heard a lot from the cleaners is sometimes they get screwed by the hosts, by people that don't do business the right way. They don't pay them. So it's a nice way for them to make sure they get paid for their work. And I also want to hit on the point from the supply side. So we're talking about the demand side, the supply side. And we were talking before the show about how cleaners are able to build the business through Turno. So I'd love to maybe share some insights on that. I think that's a story that's not told as much that I would love to hear more about.
Yeah, absolutely. In the same way that you're building your vacation rental empire, on the other side, there are people who are building their vacation rental cleaning business. And I think the most important thing when you're building a business is having momentum, right? And on Airbnb, momentum looks like you're getting a lot of bookings, and you're getting a lot of good reviews, and you're climbing up to the top of the search result, and you're able to get better prices, you're able to get better guests, and then you put it into your next property. And the same thing happens on Turno. If you're a cleaner that's on time, that does good service, you're going to get good reviews. If you're going to get good reviews, you're going to pop up to the top of the search results, and you're going to get selected again and again. And at some point, you can only service so many customers, so you start to hire people. And then we see people who start as a solo cleaner and now have dozens of employees and are turning like 15 places every day and are running beautiful businesses. And it's based on momentum. It's based on pleasing customers, dominating the search results, then getting more customers. And that's, to me, probably the most satisfying part of the business is talking to people that have built a business on top of our platform and have built a better life.
Yeah, I know. I think that's something that's like really not talked about a lot. And I think there's this big issue about cleaning fees and how expensive they are. I think people don't really realize that like we actually do have to pay. This is the cost that it takes to give you a nice place. They're like, we have a lot of 2-bedroom apartments in Philadelphia. Why are you charging me $110? Because I paid $95 to my cleaners for a clean and I have to restock everything too. Like not really making any money on this stuff. I have to pay them too. There's overhead on that. So I think that's where I love how you kind of illustrate that. There's a human element to that cleaning fee. It's the person that's actually there for hours, cleaning the mess and making sure you have a good place to stay. And then separate to that too is like, the people that are cleaning, they're usually like women, people of color. And at least for the people that I work with, they don't really have chances there aren't a lot of economic opportunity. And I think actually like cleaning Airbnb business has afforded a lot of them an opportunity to build a business for themselves and provide a better life. And it's hard to do that. So like having a platform like Turno, being able to have like reviews and being able to market themselves in a platform where they may not have that kind of skill is actually like super valuable. So it's really cool to hear that you have cleaners that, doing 15 turns a day and hiring employees. I think that's a side that like doesn't get talked about very much. That
The same way that in Airbnb, people started with one property, two properties, and then they saw success and they scaled. It happens on the cleaner side as well. And it's one of the probably the hardest jobs out there because, it's physical labor. There's an element of responsibility there. And people apply themselves. It's very easy to work retail, but to do this job, it takes more effort and more initiative, and people need to be compensated for that.
And it's not steady work. I think people forget too. You only can clean from 10 to 4, generally speaking, depending on your people's checkout time. So that's really like 6 hours. There's only so many turns you can do, no matter how fast you are. 3, maybe, if you're like a crazy fast cleaner and everything's in one location. You can only do 1 or 2 cleans a day. And if you don't have cleans every single day, people need to compensate themselves for that. I think for listeners here, like that's why I think these are some good talking points as people talk about like why cleaning fees are so expensive. It reflects the economic reality. Like we're not paying cleaners $20 and our hosts aren't paying cleaners $20 and charging $100. Like it's not it's not sustainable for the cleaners.
No, and sustainability, Michael, is so important. You can try and squeeze a couple of dollars here and there, but if you want reliable people that are always on time, that do a great job, it has to be sustainable. They need to want to do it.
Yeah, and you got to treat them all too. I think people, like we always tell people, treat your cleaning staff as partners. Like they may work for you, quote unquote, and you might pay them, but like you really need them because they will make or break your Airbnb business. If they don't really care and they do like an 80% job, like your reviews are going to reflect that. But people that are really attention to detail and get all the corners and do all the little things, because I think when people like don't get it. So the Airbnb cleaning is different from a regular cleaning. There's so many little details that you got to get right. That bed needs to be made this way. That toilet needs to be this way. Like all those little things like really matter. It needs to smell a certain way, right? Like all those things, you need to turn down the thermostat, like all that stuff, or turn on the thermostat depending on how you manage that. But it's actually a really difficult job.
It really is a difficult job, but it's not only you as a host, as a property manager, you need to know what you want in order to get the results that you want. And this is why it's super important to have a checklist that's like a breathing document where you say exactly what you want and don't be afraid to like require a photo, right? So that you can validate. I'd like to say trust by verify. Now you ask these things and you get those pictures and then you can verify that everything that you want done is done. It's easier for the cleaners to do a good job if you are very detailed with what you need. Now, don't go ahead and do like a 500 item list that has like vague things in it. Just be very specific about the things you really care about.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Do you guys, is that something you guys provide? Is there like a default checklist as part of onboarding? Okay.
Yeah, so we have a lot of templates you can start with that on the platform has created. A lot of good advice, I think, in business in general is don't reinvent the wheel. For example, Michael has a lot of experience and he's sharing it with you. Learn from him, right? You don't have to go and make the same mistakes he made. Similarly, people have created this checklist that capture a lot of knowledge. For example, like check that the remote batteries. Do you really want to go drive there and replace the batteries? Check that the Wi-Fi is connected. Sometimes lots of homes have kind of weird maintenance issues or the water boiler needs to be set in a certain way. Things that have caused you trouble in the past, try to encode them into the checklist so they don't cause problems in the future.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with that more. Like there's a core and then you can customize for your property. Because every little property has their own little quirks. And it's your ability to like handle those little quirks consistently and finding cleaners that will do that for you is really the name of the game. And I think, we've been really lucky. We've worked with the same cleaners in Philadelphia so they know everything like in and out. And I think that longevity of the same cleaner again for a long duration where they really know the property, they know the ins and outs of it, is super key. Actually, I'm curious, from the data on your platform, do you see that like where one cleaner will just stay with a host for a long period of time, or does it generally churn? Or does it churn more often?
No, people stick with each other for the long term. One caveat is that if you're working on a manual basis with someone, there is, if I can borrow some corporate jargon, institutional knowledge that is not captured anywhere. Right. And then as you inevitably lose someone, then all that knowledge goes away. So I think it's important to capture that knowledge in a structured way in the form of a checklist. And it's also really important to have multiple cleaners trained on the property so that you're not vulnerable and scrambling if someone leaves, which they inevitably will, right? It is a lot of churn in this industry. Some people go into cleaning and then find other jobs, or they move, or their schedule gets changes, and that will happen. So you want to make sure that you're ready. And the way to be ready is capture all the institutional knowledge in your checklist, in your operations, and then have multiple people trained on your properties so that if you lose someone, then the other person can step in. And then at that point, you should also work on another backup.
Yeah, fair enough. And then look, as we thinking about a software platform in a SaaS product, the biggest metrics are, or two of the biggest metrics are churn and customer acquisition, right? I mean, those are the biggest things. How do you reduce churn for hosts like me? And how do you reduce churn for cleaners, right? Because obviously you want the more hosts, the more cleaners, and it's like this nice virtuous cycle. How do you get everyone to, when they come, just stay with you?
I think because it's so mission critical to get your cleaning done, I think once people get it, tend to stick with it just because it's such a critical component of your business. Same way that like you don't switch accountants all the time for your business, right? If someone knows what they're doing, just let them keep going. Like you don't really want to get into it and swap. And you were constantly adding features and innovating on trying to make everyone's lives better and provide more value on both sides of this marketplace. So if it's offering hosts more tools or more selection, or the same thing for cleaners.
I was just going to say, what are some of the new features that are coming out, or the previous and new cool stuff that's coming out for users in 2024?
So I can talk about something that we recently launched. It's called a Quality Center, which ties into new features that Airbnb released, which lets guests tag specific cleaning issues on the review. So as someone checks out and reviews your property, we're able to, first of all, associate the guest review with the specific cleaner so you can track the performance of your cleaners based on the guest reviews. And then if there are specific issues in the cleaning that guests have tagged, so we highlight those and we show kind of common resolutions that can help you. For example, if you have smell issues, then we'll have all kinds of suggestions. For example, use these plug-in air fresheners or like ventilation tips and tricks, because we've seen everything, right? There's like thousands of turns a day. Most of them go well, but some don't. So we've seen it all. So we're able to offer solutions that kind of is based on the specific guest feedback, and then also tie the guest cleaning review to the specific cleaner who cleaned the place before they were there. So if, for example, if you're running 20-something, 30-something properties, you can see, for example, which one of your cleaners gets the best cleaning reviews from guests, and you can see if there's someone who's not performing or someone who's outperforming.
That's really cool. That's cool. You can go inside the reviews and associate with. That's actually really neat. It's definitely less work for the VAs and do more for automation. The more automation, the better. I 100% believe in that. Actually, you're curious. So out of the thousands of cleans you do a day, how many actually go bad? Like, how do you, like, percentage-wise, like, how many actually don't go well? Like 10%, 5%, 10%, 1%? Curious, actually.
The cleaning themselves are 99% go well, but some of the guest reviews are not 5 stars. And sometimes it's the cleaner's fault, and sometimes it's the property itself that is out of scope. Or let's say you have like mold issues or smell issues that are structural. It's not something that you can really pin the cleaner for. That's probably on the lower end of the market, but they do exist. But yeah, the overwhelming majority of guest reviews are 5 stars.
Gotcha. Sure. That's really cool. I think it'd be interesting to see when using. I think one of the biggest value propositions is there's obviously the automation, but like really getting your reviews at a very high level. That'd be a very interesting case study to see what the Turno cleaning score is versus
Oh,
the average area.
we've done this study. We've done
Okay.
this study. Yeah. So the Turner host is about zero point 0.2 or 0.3% higher than other hosts, which is might not sound like much, but it's huge. Right? If you're looking at like a 4.9 average versus a 4.6, it is actually huge because really most people just give 5 stars and move on. But if you have a 4.6, that means you have quite a few bad reviews.
Oh, that's really bad. I think they kick you off the platform at 6. There was something I read that if you're below 4.85 overall, it's not really a sustainable listing. You're going to continue to just slide down. That is like the line.
There.
Yeah.
Like you miss a cleaning due to miscommunication, like you forget to leave toilet paper, someone doesn't have a towel. It doesn't take much to piss someone off.
Yeah, no, especially the consumable stuff. You forget one of those, then you get some complaints. That's cool. Really appreciate. Sorry, go ahead. No, I didn't mean to cut you off.
When you think about it, it makes sense. Someone is on vacation and like they don't have something basic, and they have to go to Walmart to buy it. It's not a good experience.
It's not a good experience. Yeah. And so then people get mad. I think that's where people get mad about the cleaning fees. It's like, all right, I paid this much. If you come in, it's great. It smells great, looks great, it's good. But you have one roll of toilet paper or you don't have any dish soap, then people get annoyed. I just paid this much money. You guys can't even provide me soap or toilet paper. So it's great that you have a great solution to that problem. And I think for me, just overall, as the more professionalization in the space, the better. I think the hosts get a better reputation. We all make more money. Provide a good experience to the guests, and it's just a nice virtuous cycle. As we wind in a conversation, I always ask my guests this question because, like, fundamentally, and it's what you're building here is a team, right? Like, business is a team sport. Like, every business, your cleaner is one of your most important players. As you look through your business experience, your journey, like, what's one of the kindest things that someone has done for you that's helped you get to where you are today, to Turno where it is today? What's one of the kindest things?
I've had a mentor that has worked with me in previous companies, and we've had some technical issues at the very beginning that I was struggling with, and I've asked for his advice, and instead of just giving me a solution or a link or whatever, it was like, okay, why don't we do a session together and I'll look into it and I'll help you work on it. And we ended up working on it for like days together and really helped me out of a pickle. And it was someone who was a supervisor of mine who really didn't have to do it, really didn't need to spend days with me. And I'm really appreciative of it and looking forward to an opportunity to repay either to him or to someone else that I might be able to help. When someone does something that is like doing it so much of their time and does something that is so out of the way, it resonates, you don't forget it, and you really feel like you need to somehow repay that debt.
Yeah, no, that's a great way. That's a great story. It's a great end to show. It's always the people that a lot of them don't even know that they did it. They just did it just because they're that kind of person, or they just liked you and they just wanted to be helpful, and they just go out of their way to help you. And that's a cool part about, I think, the short-term rental space in general, and meeting more entrepreneurs doing this. Like, there's just so much going on in business. If you don't have a network of people around you that help you and sort through problems and talk through problems, and sometimes just like someone just to complain to, hey man, I don't know if this is going to work or not. Someone to talk you off the edge. And I think there'll be a lot fewer success stories. Obviously, congratulations on the business that you've built so far, and excited to see the next chapter for Turno. What's the best way for people to reach out to you and to the company? So
our website is at turno.com. We're very proud to have a 5-letter domain.
It's a very expensive domain.
Shorter than turnoverbnb, which was a mouthful. And we also have a special kind of gift for your listeners. So if they go to turno.com/SDR like the best, and if you follow that link and you find your cleaner, then you're going to get a $150 Amazon gift card. So it's a great way to use Turno and either buy a little something for yourself or decorate your listing, whatever you want to do.
We appreciate the kind gift that you're sharing with everyone. And again, folks, if you're out there looking for a cleaner, Turno is a really great place to turn to find someone that can really solve one of the biggest issues with operating a successful short-term rental. Thank you again for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Michael. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.